Now let's turn to another boiling pot and to the Labour front. And the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Haruna Idrisu, has issued a 30-day ultimatum to the Chief Labour Officer to report companies which have refused to comply with the payment of the minimum wage.
And the sector minister made this known at an emergency meeting with staff of the Labour Department in Accra. A report by Daniel Opoku.
The minimum wage has been increased from 6 to 7 cedis, representing 16.7% increase. The sector minister directed the chief labour officer to focus on both private and public institutions which have refused to comply. He also charged the chief labour officer and his staff to consider occupational health safety issues when they visit the companies.
The department must proactively lead the process and furnish my office with your findings of those observing it in breach and those honoring by way of respect and complying with the new directive. Further, even compliance with health, safety and occupational standards. I need a report. You go, casual workers are treated anyhow in this country. They are deserving of our protection under our ILO obligations.
Chief Labour Officer Eugene Nakolete assured to comply.
Our numbers are not a welcome situation. But what we do is that we strategize by coming out with industry specific. We could decide to go to the hoteliers, restaurants. You know, we identify some key areas where gaps are actually identified.
Meanwhile, the ministry is soliciting support from development partners to reconstruct and refurbish the department.
Right, so let's do more on Minister Haruna Idrisu's ultimatum and speak to Eugene Nakolete. He is the Chief Labour Officer. Mr. Na, good evening, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so what has been the nature of complaints that you know about which will make Minister Haruna Idrisu issue such an ultimatum?
You know, our duty as a department is to, well, the duties that we perform is to inspect workplaces and see how social partners in terms of employers and then the workers comply to the rules and regulations which govern employment relationship in this country. And in doing that, we also look at their compound level up to the payment of salaries and wages to the workers. In fact, our duty is to educate, correct where there are gaps, and then to enforce compliance. So that the parties actually play to the rules of the game. And we have also identified, or we have information that there are some agencies who are not complying with the minimum wage, especially. And the minimum wage, we all know that is the standard below which employers pay their workers. So we go there to enforce that this to pay the minimum wage, and then to also ensure that with the various changes that go on the world of work in terms of payment, we are actually complying with that. As we speak this year, we've adjusted the minimum wage, and we have to go out there to enforce it, to ensure that the employers actually comply with that by paying the minimum wage to their workers.
Yeah, Mr. Na, just for purposes of clarification. Hello, Mr. Na. Just for purposes of clarification, how much is it?
The minimum wage?
Yes.
The minimum wage for 2015 is 7 cities. It was increased from 6 cities to 7 cities, which is 16.7% rise over the previous year.
Okay, so and do you have an idea how much those who are not paying are paying at the moment? No, that's those who are not complying with the...
That will we'll just get that information through our inspection activities that we conduct.
All right.
And earlier indicated that our numbers is very low. Okay. So what we do is that we are going to strategize by identifying, especially restaurants, hotels, even some FM stations will be there to find out whether they are complying with the minimum wage. And then through the airwaves, in fact, if you are a worker and then you find yourself in that parameter, you can actually drop us a hint, and then we'll be there to inspect. They are not there to actually prosecute, but we'll be there to inspect and then correct the anomalies.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Eugene Kolete. He's the Chief Labor Officer speaking to us on the ultimatum issued by the Minister, Haruna Idris. That's a 30-day ultimatum to report companies that are not complying with the new minimum wage.
Let's now continue with the rest of our stories. And the National Labour Commission says it will soon drag feuding parties to court if they fail to appear before it. The NLC insists it will not allow any labour union or government institution to undermine its authority.
Executive Secretary of the Commission, Dr. Bernice Welbeck, spoke with our reporter Daniel Opoku.
The National Labour Commission since last year has come under severe criticism for failing to enforce its rulings. Most labour unions and government institutions have chastised the Commission for not being proactive in resolving problems, but rather just issuing statements describing strikes as illegal and unlawful. That notwithstanding, the NLC has indicated plans to drag parties to court if they fail to appear before it for hearing. The Commission indicated plans are given a second chance for parties to appear, but will not allow any union or institution to undermine its authority.
If the Commission is able to establish that indeed you were given the opportunity with all the facts and the evidence and you did not take advantage of that, then you have to pay for the consequences, because you could have a good case, you could have sound reasons why certain actions are taken. But until you come to talk about it, until you come to defend your action, it will be difficult for the Commission to know why you did what you did.
A labour expert, Opini Obinfosu, also asked unions and government to respect MOUs to avert labour agitations.
It should have been either your negotiation, your mediation, or your arbitration, and that settles the case. But at times, the government would sit, or the employer who is the government would sit with the workers, and they would say that let us agree on this. If you agree and you comply with it, there's no problem.
Meanwhile, the Commission has introduced a document titled Settlement and Disputes, the Labour Act 651, to regulate activities of parties.